Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity, and it's done a better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines. If you do sero surveys in African countries, you get well over 80% of people have been exposed either to the vaccine or to various variants. And so, what that does is it means the chance of severe disease, which is mainly associated with being elderly and having obesity or diabetes, those risks are now dramatically reduced because of that infection exposure. And it's sad we didn't do a great job on therapeutics. Only here, 2 years in, do we have a good therapeutic. Vaccines, it took us 2 years to be in oversupply. Today, there are more vaccines than there is demand for vaccines. And that wasn't true. And next time we should try and make it, instead of 2 years, we should make it more like 6 months, which certainly some of the standardized platform approaches, including mRNA, would allow us to do that. So, it took us a lot longer this time than it should have.
Is it possible to prevent the next pandemic?
Yes, if every country does what Australia did, then you wouldn't be calling it a pandemic. That's all.
In terms of combating COVID-19 and the potential for another pandemic? Are we going to see another pandemic before we are able to beat this one?
Well, we'll have another pandemic. It will be a different pathogen next time. We'll have some rebound. This pathogen, we don't have a tool to do eradication. We'd like to have a new generation of vaccines that would be suitable. I mean, ideally, we'd get rid of families of respiratory viruses, including the flu family and the coronavirus family. And I do think in the next decade we can come up with an eradication vaccine. That's an aspiration, not a guarantee, but we should put R&D dollars into that. There's already a lot of work that's been done on a universal flu vaccine, and the data on that looks very promising. So we'll have rebounds, but they'll be more typical seasonal flu levels, where, of course, we don't generally shut things down, although in the future some degree of mask wearing probably will be indicated, but we won't get death levels at the kind of acute level that we're still experiencing today as the Omicron wave passes through on a global basis.
Bill, how well do you think the media has done at policing itself when getting the facts right? And did it damage the world's ability to fight this pandemic?
Well, I think the mainstream media did a reasonably good job. You know, it's a little too bad that the death number that was published daily didn't say, you know, unvaccinated X percent, you know, vaccinated Y percent, because then people would have seen the, you know, phenomenal difference in terms of risk of dying being somebody who wasn't vaccinated. So, you know, maybe next time we'll find a better way to get that message out. The scale of the misinformation, once you move past the mainstream media, is so wild, you almost have to laugh about it. I mean, you know, Dr. Fauci and I are just killing millions of people to make money. You know, hydroxychloroquine is this miracle cure that somehow he and I have masterminded, avoiding people saving their lives by taking this thing. There's no doubt that the misinformation enhanced vaccine hesitancy, and that maps to hundreds of thousands of deaths. There's no doubt that the idea that, you know, we need the freedom not to wear a mask, you know, and that's some, you know, thing that you've got to show, that in many cases that led to spreading the disease into locations where elderly people had very high death rates. And so, you know, as we look back over the pandemic, you know, having the politicians speak out, that doesn't work very well, because then you have a lack of trust. The CDC in our country could have been more front and center. Dr. Fauci became front and center, and, you know, the key messages about the vaccine is good, you should take it, and some level of mask wearing is good. I don't think he ever confused anybody about the primary messages that saved lives.
What about masks? I think there are a lot of people in America who are confused about whether they should be wearing a mask. And in the United Kingdom, for example, they've scrapped that altogether.
Well, that's interesting. You know, what is the downside of wearing a mask? I mean, it's got to be tough. You know, you have to wear pants. I mean, this is tough stuff. These societies are so cruel. Why do they make you wear pants? I'm trying to figure it out.
We're very glad you have yours on.
That will be on the web. For sure will be on the web.